It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. All right, let's talk about making meetings matter. I think that sometimes we don't necessarily go into meetings with the understanding of the word presence. So, one of the things that I teach people in class is just because you're there doesn't mean you're present. I know that sounds kind of strange, but it's one of those things where you can go in and you can say, I'm trying to listen with the intent to respond, or I'm trying to listen with the intent to understand. And I think that listening with the intent of understanding is way different than listening with the intent to respond. I think it's two completely different animals. So I think that if you feel like you're in this position, this episode's going to be for you. So this story came from a teacher. So let me read this story to you. I love to start things with a story. The teacher says, I've been in arts and education for 2 decades. I've had thousands of students, and I've discovered something you cannot teach, but you can invite into the space. It's an amorphous and indescribable, but it's palpable when it arrives. It is the connection that allows an audience to gasp with an onstage discovery. It's the vibration that strikes a chord when a listener in a song, with a listener in a song. It's free. It's available to everyone, but we undervalue it moment by moment that passes us by. This is called presence. Okay, so I like that kickoff. I know I've been to theater before and live theater, and I love in live theater when you have that moment where you're just like, oh my goodness, right? That gasp, that presence. It's just awesome. So she goes on to say, one of the universities where I taught had a monthly convocation. It was a gathering of the entire school for faculty, staff, students in a several hundred seat theater. The hour long event was often kicked off with a short lecture, then followed with a talk about school events, followed with a flurry of announcements for various upcoming shows, rattled off breathlessly by department heads and student directors. Convocation inevitably always ran late. There was simply so much to do, so much to share, so much to highlight, so much to discuss. Once, when our dean was away, he asked me to run a meeting, to run a gathering. I started by standing in front of everyone and taking them in. I strived to be the thermostat, not the thermometer. I stood there, felt my feet on the ground, and a loud breath in, and then I sighed out. When I was a younger teacher, I would end a full day of teaching completely exhausted. My mentor asked me, are you allowing your students to meet you halfway? And I realized that I wasn't. I was blustering in with all my vim and vigor, and as a result, I was expending more energy than I had and more energy than I needed to. I wasn't actually allowing anyone to bring their own energy into the room. I lacked the confidence that time brings, and I mistakenly thought that as the sole educator in a room, I was solely responsible for this class. But a group event, whether it being a meeting, a class, or a conversation or a convocation, requires a group of people to show up and be present. It's a communion. It's a shared experience. After taking everyone in that day of convocation, I then asked the school community to put down all their stuff, their phones, computers, notebooks, etc., and continued. Find a comfortable seat, feel your feet on the floor, lengthen your spine, allow your diaphragm to drop to allow a breath in, and allow the diaphragm to fly up with a sigh of relief. I spoke with them about the etymology of the word convocation, to call, to come together, and noted its references throughout history and literature in the Bible. I asked them how many times they had mindlessly gathered somewhere when the event's contents could have been sent in a well-worded email. I asked them, why do we even gather? What happens when we start with a body and breath awareness and then examine the root of our convening? We become present in the time and space, and what's more, we understand our purpose for being present in this time and space together. Once I turned the convocation over to the audience, the gathering was markedly different from 15 minutes before. More calm, yet simultaneously more alive. Everyone shared articulately, unhurriedly, and more authentically. Everyone who wanted to speak had a chance to speak. Every person who wanted to share had a chance to share. Once the convocation reached its natural conclusion, I invited everyone to be present with themselves for a few moments, and I concluded as I always do. A nod to a clowning professor, I once had inviting us all to clap our hands and slap the floor and in tone. So it is. We did. We wound up ending 15 minutes early. I read in a science fiction book once about a beautiful view of jet lag. The book said that jet lag was temporary disassociation between the body and the soul. The idea was that a plane moves too quickly for a human being, so while the plane takes the body to a new location, a soul lags behind, unable to meet the speed of the plane. The disconnection between the two is a feeling of jet lag. I never thought of it that way before. But I see jet lag in the world outside of air travel. We are jet lagged in our lives. We try to move so fast that our souls can't keep up. We need time. Whether we think we can multitask and do a million things, we really cannot. We only ever do one thing at a time as we strive to entertain a million choices. We cannot multitask. Choice overload will shut down your brain. The term is human beings. We are neglecting half our nomenclature, which is being or to be. Gatherings are a sacred place, sacred spaces where we have an opportunity to create, commute, and transform. And yet, so often we bluster them into haphazardly worrying about the future while they just pass us by. We're constantly dragging our baggage in the door while bulleting a laundry list of features, to dos, and as a result, we're lagging in the past or projecting in the future. And as a result, we are never actually anywhere. People think that being mindful or doing body or breath work takes time, but it actually makes time. I don't expect everyone to be an expert in body work or breath work or to start an event. Not everyone is going to dive down the rabbit hole and learn as much as I know. But when we are all experts on being human, because we all are, so let's take an opportunity to invite more humanity into our gatherings. It could be as simple as feeling your body in a space, noticing your breath, recalling the reason that you've gathered. Don't make your soul rush behind you in as a harried assistant. Give it time to arrive. Give yourself time to arrive, time to be. And if you do this, I can tell you, everyone else will show up as well because you're not trying to rush things. One of the best pieces of advice that I ever was given as a new leader when I started my company was to slow down and relax. And for me, that was so hard because I felt like I needed to move at the pace of a million miles an hour just to keep up with all the things around me. What I quickly learned was that I did my best work when I slowed down. So my challenge for you this Friday is to slow down. Take advantage of this agile, not so agile episode and figure out this weekend who you are. Pay attention to your body. Pay attention to your feet touching the ground. Pay attention to your breath. Pay attention to what you do. Find a yoga lesson that you can do or a meditation that you can do and really become in touch with who you are as a person and most importantly, as a human being. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, or until Monday, do take care. Bye now.